Hi everyone, welcome back to the Purpose of Our Profit podcast. This week we're doing it a bit different again. We are doing it in my shed office cabin in the woods, which is really in the urban environment of Glasgow, which is fantastic. Darren was speaking, but he's got a Jaffa kick in his mouth, so we just keep on rolling, if you like. First off, Merry Christmas to everyone. Yeah, Merry Christmas. Hope you've had a fantastic time. We're recording this just before, so hopefully everyone got to spend time with their family and loved ones, which is crucial.
And Omicron, and it's probably it's quite relevant that we're talking about that because we're going to do a bit of a wrap up, right?
Yeah, well, this year we're going to do a bit of a wrap up for 2021. Not a wrap up around what we've learned, just a bit of a wrap up from what we've seen throughout the year and just some of the highlights, some of the lowlights, if you like, as well, which has been kind of prevalent. What ones do you want to? Will we kick off, guys?
We probably, since I mentioned it there, we need to talk about COVID. Yeah, because this thing that we thought was going to happen, we're going to be done and dusted in 2020, and we're all going into 2021 going, oh, this is going to be better. It basically got shot down before we even got into 2021, right? It was, you're into lockdown again.
Yeah, that's right.
That ran through to what? Mid-April or something?
Bloody hell, I forgot about that. Yeah, it doesn't see when you're out lockdown, you actually forget you were in a lockdown. You forget how lucky you were, how lucky you are now to be able to just go drive to shops.
It was painful, It was so painful for.
So we had that in April, and we came out of that with the nice summer, and then we've had this Omicron just popped out of the fucking woodwork out of nowhere, and then the way this is looking, like this is probably going to be with us for not Omicron, but just COVID for a long time, and it might just not be Omicron just now. It might be Jeffacon, Popacon next year and the year after. You never know. So, but hopefully we'll get to spend a bit of Christmas together.
And what's your thoughts? Like, I guess I know Debbie's obviously was last year when it first came in, was right on the front line of it. Like, what's your thoughts on? I guess how we've managed it, and what stuff are you seeing like across the world? Because I'm happy to give my opinion. I see it's like it feels like last year's response and severity to it was okay, and I can understand it. We didn't know much about it. We were trying to learn about it as we were trying to fight it and suppress it and manage hospital levels. And I think we done a pretty good job in terms of doing that.
Yeah.
And I think most people managed it and were respectful to it. It came into next year, and I've got to say, between January and like April, I was like, not again. But I was like, okay, if we can just get past this winter, then we're cool.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, there's a new variant. Vaccination levels are like really, really good.
Yeah.
And there's a big part of me, and I think I feel a sense of growing like swell of people have more than had their fill of it, and that our vaccinations are at a rate where we've broken the link between like hospitalizations and deaths, and therefore we just need to get back to a more reasonable way of living.
We're going to be living with it, aren't we, for a long time?
We are, but I mean, I'm not down with the numbers. I'm not an expert on it. I don't watch the news.
Same,
because I find it's a lot of a lot of bullshit. But
I mean, recently Boris Johnson's on TV. My wife watched it, and I was like, listen, I'm not going to watch it. I mean, Nicola Sturgeon's on TV the other day announcing the safety measures. Boris Johnson was just telling people to have booster jabs. But there's that. I get it. You're right, actually. Last year was fantastic what we did. I mean,
party last year they would have been fantastic.
Yes,
the Tory Christmas party.
So that would be fun. But then there's no confidence in the government. I think that's the issue I've got around. There's no confidence in that leadership. You look at Keir Starmer, who's the opposite leader, and there's no confidence in him at all. So you're kind of, you spoke at a different podcast about if you're not at the steering the ship and nobody's in the engine room, you can't really basically understand where you're going. There's not going to be any pace of it. There's not going to be any direction of where you're going. Plus, there's not going to be any power as well. And I feel that's the government. There's no pace or power in what the government are doing, and I kind of get let down by that. But yeah, I mean, Debbie was in the front line. I mean, she's obviously she came away from the front line now, which is great. There's scary figures out there on stats, which is quite scary. I mean,
but what are the scary stats? Like, so, I don't, like,
Well,
have you had anyone that's died from Omicron yet? Or?
So, I mean, this, I don't want to get too political in this podcast about the whole COVID stuff, but I looked into the booster stats as well, and it's all about, it was 75% increase in actually defending your body against the Omicron variant, but that was preliminary studies based upon a certain number, so it wasn't actually totally validated at that point.
Yeah, and we don't know what the long-term impacts are on anything.
So. No, I've got a personal thing that's happened, not to me, but within the family network, which has happened through COVID, which has totally rocked our boat and our kind of concepts. I'm not getting the booster. I've made that decision just because of these choices which happened. So it's changed our perception of it and what's happened within the COVID world. But for me, that links into some of me mentioned around one of the things that I found so infuriating and such a backhanded, not a backhanded compliment, a complete slap in the face was when the government announced that the NHS were going to be getting a pay rise of 1% in 2021. And that was for all the hard work for the years. And all these doctors and all that were getting a massive pay rise, and they were saying, no, it's not us, just give it to the frontline staff. So for me, that was a complete cheek. So with the government, the government, you could talk about this, you've got the whole social distancing stuff, and then Matt Hancock gets caught with his hands.
So this is the thing where you see Matt Hancock, right? The furor and the narrative in the papers was about, I can't believe he's broke COVID rules. Like, he's basically having sex in his office, right? And if that was you, me, anyone, that's the important thing, not that he's having like very close contact with an aide that he brought in. He's hired someone.
Yeah, actually, from HR point of view, that's terrible, isn't it? Yeah.
But yeah, the narrative is about, it's how disrespectful at a time when we're trying to manage them. Like, frankly, who gives a shit about him like playing away? Yeah. Because of the impact of one individual on, even as the health secretary, it's more about the morals of his conduct, about hiring someone and
purposely well, you don't know if that's purposely the mindset of to, but
it's happened. Yeah. Like, if me or you, anyone that we'd hired and work, and that had came out, that
true, yeah,
gone, bye. Gross misconduct.
But that's so again.
He's still an MP. He's just stepped down from the cabinet.
He's coming back out.
It's just an absolute farce.
But this is the problem with leadership. So you've got obviously the COVID fiasco. You've got the man that hit Matt Hancock. You've got Dominic Cummings coming out after being sacked. You've got the stuff like Afghanistan as well. What happened with Afghanistan as well, with Dominic Raab being on holiday and all these other people being on holiday, and how that basically went to the fucking fan, the shit out of the fan there. So all these examples of how the government can lead. You talked about the Tory party that came out as well, that they had the Christmas party when everyone else was in lockdown. So there's just no leadership. And then you look at what Keir Starmer's like, which is hard as well. There's probably, this whiteboard's probably got more personality than Keir Starmer, unfortunately. So there's all this kind of stuff, which is just so hard to kind of look at what you can look at from a kind of government level. And then you even look at the other side of it, where you've got the royal family this year as well, where you think of what was it, Prince Harry and Meghan, where there was a race fiasco about, did somebody say how black is it going to be, and then that might have been Prince Philip, who actually passed away this year as well. So you've got all this kind of just shithousery that's happening everywhere.
Shithousery, I love it. I love it. But yeah, I'm probably in the same boat as you. I haven't had I'm not quite as old as you, so I've not had the blue envelope for my booster yet. But I was floored 3 days solid, COVID, really bad with the second vaccine. And I think a couple of days with the first one. The vaccine, right? And then I caught COVID 6 weeks later.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it was the Moderna vaccine, I think one of the stronger ones in terms of the attrition rate of effectiveness of basically catching it. So lasting like 5-6 months. Well, I caught it after 6 weeks. So my problem is with a lot of the narrative, it talks about like these isolated extreme cases, but yet I don't know that many people, and I talk to lots of people that have had a similar sort of experience where they've had significant side effects in the short space of time. And I kind of look at it and go, well, if I get the booster, I'm almost guaranteed now, because of the last 2 shots that I've had, I'm definitely going to have an adverse reaction. And I'm not sure if it's any better, because I've had the 2 vaccines and I still got COVID, and I had no more than a mild cold. And I just don't buy into the element of, well, you were only okay with COVID because
you had
that. But I'm like, we've just been speaking about some stuff. I exercise regularly. I try and eat healthily. I take vitamins, take nootropics. I try and manage like my body, my health. I don't have respiratory problems. I'm not overweight. I'm not at risk. The numbers of people that are dying are in that category. They're overweight. They're overweight and they're old. Yeah. Right. And I'm getting a bit older, but I'm like, that's the people we should be looking to try and protect as much as possible.
What's your views on other countries that are bringing in mandatory vaccines?
It's fucking crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, this is like, so I don't know if this is right or not, but from what I was reading into, Germany are now like we own your body as a state. It's like we own your body, so like it's our right to do it. Listen, it's a difficult one, right? And this is why last year our response, I think, worldwide. I don't buy into conspiracy theories, by the way. I do think it's an absolute. It's very clear that it came from a lab leak. All right, but nobody who have discounted it. It seems very, very clear, right? And this is, well, I don't know. I don't know if that's our legal position. It's very clear, right? There's lots of very good evidence.
So this is Darren's views.
Right? It's very, very clear that there's strong evidence to support that, right? But no one spoke about that last year. Why? Because of the political influence of China, right? But I think worldwide, how we managed the outbreak, the response, we did shit ourselves a bit. And I think collectively, the world did. Some were a little bit stronger. New Zealand were like, in Australia, like closed borders completely.
If you've left the country and in India, do you remember that? Because that was the Indian variant.
That was the Delta variant.
Was that Delta? I can't remember the change.
This is the other thing. It's like as if India caused it, and same South Africa. It's like as if South Africa caused it. It's like no, they never.
Nobody's flagged that we're using Greek. Is it the Greek alphabet? It's Greek old names or something like Omicron and Delta. What do Greece people think about this?
I think they're
but no, like I get it's weird as well because we've now had to come to the acceptance that bizarrely. So this year we wanted to go to for my birthday we wanted to go to Italy, but then we just because of the way things worked out with the family never went, and we wanted to go to Bruges, but the way it worked out that it was going to just take too long to get the PCR test and cost too much money, we just scrapped it. And because I'm not going to get the booster, that now reduces our opportunity to go abroad somewhere next year because they want to see that you've had your double vaccine plus your booster plus this. So I think it's 6 months, is it? You need to get a booster.
I mean, if we added a test in, I think that feels like the right approach. And I'm really quite clear that like Christmas, it feels like we're moving. You know, remember last year Christmas cancelled, and I want to have my folks over.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask them to test. We'll do tests, even though from a lateral flow, I think we'll still pick up. Like I couldn't get a PCR test done now because I'm within 90 days of recovering from COVID or testing positive.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, because I think there's still a chance that you might not, or you'll test positive. All right, because this was one of the reasons we didn't go to New York because we couldn't show proof of recovery. It's like a made-up letter that nobody in the UK is going to sign. Like, well, who would sign? Oh, you've recovered from COVID. So to answer your question, I think last year, yes, like the world like handled it well, but I think those countries now that are looking at mandatory vaccinations. I mean, England, like we're talking last week when this comes out, England's now got the vaccine passport to get into big major events. And that's just a step below mandatory because what you're saying is you can only you
don't qualify.
You don't qualify, and like I listen, Joe Rogan's really outspoken on this, right? And he's been through the ringer on it. So he's like, I never got vaccinated. He got COVID bad, and he got he basically went for his own approach, done his own research to go through it, and it's like these are the things that. I can't remember what the specific drug is, but the US are starting to clamp down on the use of that because there was so much private use of that drug. And he was getting labelled where he's using horse tranquilizer because there was a drug that
An
was
alternative
used.
that they can't make money from at this present time.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so I'm trying to think of the name of it now.
Jesus.
It's not resveratrol. It's
We'll put it in the show notes.
yeah, but it's
Anyone wants to buy
like
it.
I will have a search for it just now. But I think the fact that it's used on horses is a dewormer, but it's been used for humans. It's been like millions of applications of it.
But they've got
and-
studies and long-term effects.
but
and all that
like
stuff, yeah.
the impacts in terms of significant side effects next to none, like 0.0001% or something like that, like ridiculous. So it's been used lots, been effective against the respiratory sort of impact of COVID, which is a thing that will cause death or significant impact, and there's no long-term impacts. Like there's scientific research there to show it. He's taken it and he's basically been lambasted by the media because I think the agenda is anti-vaccine, and it's telling people, do you know what? There's other ways to look after yourself. I mean, this reminds me of plastic surgery in a way, right? Or not plastic surgery. Like imagine you're overweight, so we'll just staple your stomach.
Oh yeah, gastric band, yeah.
Oh, gastric band, and like so. What we've done there is a medical procedure which could be managed a lot less, a lot better through other ways. And we're forcing people down a route to say, do you know what? Take this and you'll be okay from this. Well, also you'll be okay if you take vitamin D and vitamin C and take vitamins and exercise and eat healthily.
Well, I just want to pick you up. So you mentioned anti-vaxxers, which is crucial. And so a couple of my friends are against this completely about COVID and all that, and they've been labelled anti-vaxxers. But I was even chatting to Dad the other day, and we're talking about the booster, and he was saying, "Oh, have you got your booster, Jag, yet, Chris?" I was like, "No, I'm not going for it." And he was like, straight away, he had this perception of anti-vaxxer. I explained the personal circumstances, and he was like, "Wow, okay, I totally get that. People just label you anti-vaxxer, but I get that completely." The problem I've got as well is that once you start talking about you've done the age groups of 18 plus, and now you're looking at 14 to 18.
Oh man!
And there's even a consideration about getting your children. So unless there's a long-term studies done, I will not be doing that. But I think we should move on from COVID, because COVID's going to be with us for a long time. We can keep chatting about that, which is crucial. I maybe just have a bit of fun here, maybe talk about some sport that's maybe picked up.
There's tons of stuff. It's pretty much what I wrote down. So yeah.
So like there's a couple of things. So obviously Emma Raducanu winning the Women's Open, which is amazing.
You're going to start on sport in 2021. Wrapping up, you're going to start with Emma Raducanu as a Scot.
Look at the age of her. Yeah, fantastic. As a nation, for what she achieved for women's tennis and breaking down that barrier is fantastic. For a young person to showcase that she got kicked out of Wimbledon after, was it the first couple of games? Was it 4 games or something like that? 4 opponents she got kicked out really early stages, or 3 was it? So I think that's fantastic. But that for me was
kicked out.
Oh, she lost.
I think that was our first tournament.
First tournament. So for me,
first professional tournament.
She's studying. So
she got through a few rounds. That's like incredible.
I know she's got a good background, all that stuff. But what I was going to say is, because she was studying for exams, all this kind of stuff. For me, that was a massive achievement to look at someone so young to be able to achieve something so great that nobody else has done forever. And for me, I know we're going to talk about something else in a second, but that's not the top highlight for me. But I think that's an amazing achievement, because obviously having a young daughter, I said to my daughter, you can achieve anything you want. And I used Emma Raducanu as a great example to showcase how young she is and what she's achieved. So that's brilliant. But you want to talk about the other one, the big one?
The other one, well, I mean, there's loads, but obviously we've got to talk about Scotland qualifying for the Euros.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah. Oh, Euro 2020 that appeared in 2021. Yeah, that was a bizarre one, wasn't it? Yeah. And they still called it Euro 2020, even though it was in 2020.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
It was a weird setup as well, because
we got absolutely pumped, but
well
held their own against England as always. And
but I'd like to even just chat about the concept. The concept of it, they were celebrating their birthday, the Euros, so then they decided to have it not in one nation but across the whole of Europe, which was a great concept. But then nobody anticipated COVID coming in, so then that just made it a bit harder for everyone. But you're right, Scotland got there, fucking done brilliant against England. Brilliant, yeah.
A brilliant 0-0 draw.
Brilliant. We were in the pub for it as well. That was the first time we've been in a pub to even watch a game. Like, everyone opened up.
Wee Billy Gilmore.
Yeah.
Still probably our best player at the moment. John McGinn as well. Fantastic.
McGinn
just continues, and we're still showing up. Like I think we hope we were going to be able to do something and maybe sneak through.
Yeah.
But we're probably not at that level if we're being really honest.
Well, the Euros, yeah, that showed that. I mean, even though that was our best performance, we probably had pretty not a great Euro experience.
It was pretty poor. It was a total damn squib.
Yeah, but you're right. But it's the continuation of having that mindset of we've qualified for one.
Yeah, and we're doing well. Like now,
Denmark,
and I think that the team's in a really good place. I think it's the best time that I can remember watching them consistently, like as an adult. I've got memories. I was still at school, I think, when we were at 98, and I remember dancing out in the street, drinking underage, just underage, I think. But yeah, when JC slotted in the penalty against Brazil, and then it was downhill from there. So much downhill.
John Collins, for anyone who's like a bit.
John Collins,
JC,
yeah, and then ended with the kind of picture or the image. I can still see it late and running back on the third goal against Morocco and getting basically tangled in the net like it was Spider-Man. So.
But what was so good at that Euros was again how the nation all came together. Like, I remember my kids being at school and they were watching the game in school, and the hype and hysteria that got us all rallied up. I mean, fair enough, it was a damn squib, but it got everyone excited about it again. I think that belief came back and the fans believed as well. And that's, like you say, it's just rolled on. We've now not qualified. We're having the qualifying playoff game for the who is it? Is it Ukraine? Who is it again?
No, we have Ukraine, and then we've got either Austria or Wales.
It's a tough draw, but again, it's better to be there than not to be there.
We've got a chance. We've got a chance.
But obviously, you think of the Euros. Euros is brilliant. That was one of the best tournaments I've seen for a long time. I mean, the final was a total.
What do you make of the well, we were speaking about it just off camera, but about England fans storming?
Well, that's what I was going to say, the final.
Shambles, right?
Storming Wembley. And I remember listening to it on TalkSport here. I think I was doing work. I can't remember what I was doing. I was going out, that was it. I was listening to TalkSport and they were down in Wembley Way. And we know Wembley Way quite well because a company we used to work for spent the sponsors.
SSE
Arena down there. So I know.
Not mentioning the name of the company. It's the SSE.
I think they changed name to the Oval Arena now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know it really well. So when they were talking about it, they were saying, it's really lively, there's not that many police here, blah, blah. And I was listening to it at the start, like, we've been here since 10. And then as you listen to it progress throughout the day, you could tell that people were getting more worried and anxious, that people were presenting it. And when you see what's been done and how the stewards were treated, and the stewards were only paid £20 more, but people took advantage because they knew how bad it had been. And it's disgusting to look at and to think about how unlucky that nobody was really harmed. And how a competition of that level can then be just shamefully tarnished. And that unfortunately has then spoiled the opportunity for Britain as a nation to hold a potential World Cup, because that's looked at and that's got a red mark against its name now because of what's happened. But I mean,
positive. Do you think it was inevitable though?
Well, yeah, I suppose it's social distancing was still a thing, but even though that ended, but there was drinking in the street still. First time everyone's really got together, cup final. Yeah, I think it was.
I mean, I think what I mean by that, and it's, you say, it's easy for a Scot to say this, but culturally, England haven't had the best history with fans.
You're totally right.
And then off the back of Brexit, then we had riots like Black Lives Matter, and then we had obviously COVID and people locked up, and it's like this is the opportunity as a release that we've been locked up for pretty much locked up for a year. At that point, year and a half.
Would you remember the videos we've seen of this? And we've seen the Scotland fans down there, and there was a couple of Scotland fans not really in trouble with violence, but just in trouble of being just silly and enjoying themselves. It was a classic one with the guy done the belly flop across the ground in Leicester Square, and a guy dancing away and all this. But it's more jovial, fun stuff. Really, the Tartan Army enjoying themselves. Yeah. But then there's a point where you don't really see the Tartan Army getting in trouble for fighting, but you do see, unfortunately, with some England fans, is they instigate that trouble.
But I think there's off the back of where we've been, there's always been that association and entitlement, I think, with just a small section of England fans, right? It's clearly not, we're not talking about 80,000, 100,000. We're talking about maybe a couple of thousand, a few thousand that are clearly pricks. And I think there's a right-wing element to their thoughts, but we've just came off the back of Brexit. reclaiming England or the UK, if that's the right term, from Europe and being more us. Yet to see how that's benefited us. But with that obviously stirred up a load of this stuff.
Yeah.
All right. And then
you've had Black Lives Matter,
then you've got COVID, Black Lives Matter, like all these opportunities and kind of built up angst. It's like, it felt to me at least that was going to play out in that way.
Because it's that kind of release valve of this tension, alcohol fueled. Yeah. That was only
who were you supporting?
It's funny actually, it's my dad's
team.
My dad's English, so
you supported Italy just to keep it fair.
So Italy, so we went over for the final, and I supported Italy. Yeah, my brother supported England with my dad, and I supported Italy. I turned up in my Italy 90 top, Italian 90 top. My dad,
Scalacci.
Yeah, brilliant top Baggio. Is it Baggio? Yeah,
it's not Baggio.
No, 90. No, 86 Baggio.
No, 94.
Was it 94?
94. Roberto Baggio. I don't. He might have been the squad in 1990. I remember Scalacci was 1990 in Italy.
I'm trying to remember.
Anyway, that was Italian 90.
Italian 90. But my dad had his red England top. But it was really good banter and all that. Good laugh. My dad always. It was heartbreaking to see my dad not see them lift the trophy because he was so excited about it. But at the same time, it was joyful because I'm not an England fan and I know how like the World Cup's been banged about for forever. But at the same time, I used to be a Celtic fan and they bang on about
67.
Well, I still am a Celtic fan, to be fair. I went to the game the other day and heard the whole the COVID passport thing. So yeah, for Euros, great. But a couple of other sporting things, just two. Don't know if you want to talk about one of them, or you're right. About no? Okay.
I was going to talk about that, but
what are you going to talk about?
Oh,
you going to talk about Formula One?
I was going to talk about the F1.
No, the F1, yeah, of course, yeah, last week, yeah. About Lewis Hamilton, just unfortunately.
Well, it's not unfortunate, it's an absolute shambles. Like,
I know, I've seen that.
Like, I wanted Hamilton to win.
Did you watch it all?
Yeah, but I wanted him to win, but I completely like think that either of them deserve to win, Max or Lewis. I think, I think they clearly engineered the end of the race in real time.
Again, this is Darren's own views.
No, but they clearly like they did contravene what they did, what the normal procedure would be.
Well, Hamilton said that, hasn't he, in his radio?
It's been manipulated, man. Yeah. And it has. Like, there's a few things that gone on, right? So through the race, on that race and through the season, there's been, Martin Brundle talked about this, but there's lobbying of the teams to the race director, which is Michael Massey, the guy that's basically in the centre of all of this controversy. So if anyone didn't watch it, Lewis Hamilton coasting towards the world or the championship, 10, 11 second lead. There's been a couple of virtual safety cars, which means they all need to go really slowly round. But then there was a crash like 5 laps out. Debris all over the track. They had to bring out the actual safety car. So all the cars bunch up. But of course, Lewis Hamilton's worked his way through about 4 or 5 back markers. And at the time, there was 4 back markers between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. So obviously...
Back markers is like a buffer.
Yeah, it's like lapped cars. Now, there's 2 things that normally happen. The unlapped cars, when the safety car, once the accident's been cleared, the safety car can come in and it will say, right, we'll come in. But before that, there's sometimes a decision to let all unlapped cars unlap themselves. Because you don't want to have the fact that they're unlapped, you don't want to have unlapped cars in the way of...
Yeah, spoil. Yeah.
All right. And then the second thing is, usually all of those cars have to go right the way around, and it's only when they've caught up with the back of the pack. So they don't let them drop through. They've got to drive past the safety car while they're all going slow. So they bomb it round the track, catch the net, and then the safety car comes in. Neither of those things happened, but instead, and that's in the sport and regulation, that was what was to be done. Instead, they let just the 4 unlapped cars between Hamilton and Verstappen through. Verstappen had pitted for tyres, for a new fresh pair of tyres. Hamilton couldn't because he might have, he would have been ended up behind Verstappen, and actually, based upon what should have happened, the race should have finished behind the safety car.
Yeah.
But I think because the TV audience, it was the finale, they didn't want it to be. They've made this decision to go racing for one lap, and they've allowed those 4 cars to just set off. So they hadn't, even those 4 cars hadn't caught back round. They'd only just left. Then the safety car just went in.
Yeah,
basically, so totally caught unaware, but this is happening real time. And once it's been decided it's done, Mercedes have tried to appeal it. And frankly, I don't think they will appeal, I think, because both got thrown out, but they could go to the court of arbitration for sport.
Yeah, that sometimes does make a difference. Seen it in football as well.
But I don't think they will do it, because I just think, like, you can't unpop the champagne. Do you know what I mean?
You can't. I mean, in fairness to Lewis Hamilton, he was magnan. What's it? He was actually, instead of being like throwing the toys out the pram, he was actually.
I know it's like throw the toys at the pram, but you've got to, this is part of the problem that I've got with Hamilton, and I think the way he gets a lot of people that hate him is because he comes across as too laid back, too relaxed. Just a bit too righteous, and like you see people imitating him, like impersonators, and like #grateful, and well done to Max, but like basically say what he said, like this has been manipulated, like I don't know what's going on here. Maybe he's been told, no, look, we're going to appeal it, say nothing, but it's a total farce, like as a sport.
So I'm not an F1 fan, but what I've watched and read into it, I can see it's a farce from the outside point of view. So if I can see it's a farce and I'm not a passionate fan like you, then there's that fury and anger, and
it feels like it's not even right that for Max either, because I think like that's going to be an asterisk, and this is a guy that's led like 300 odd laps over the season. He's led most of the championship. He's had more wins than anyone.
So it's going to be I've won these many championships,
but it's an asterisk.
Well, are you sure? Because I'd say, man, it's a grey one. That an asterisk.
It's an asterisk. So I think there's. That's a big where F1 goes, where Mercedes go next year, I don't know. This whole lobbying of the race director and putting him under pressure, like he needs a bit of help to stifle that. And then some of these messages are getting played out in real. They've started to play some of these conversations out over live over to us, whereas before they were screamed and they were happening in the background, but we never got to hear them.
So there's all that aspect, which is that lobbying. Totally get it. Then I also seen was it in the news that there was a sponsor on a Mercedes car that actually Grenfell Towers and all this kind of stuff.
I think it's been taken off.
That's been taken off now. Yeah. So there's that kind of element where, again, it's advertising, understanding who you're being advertised by. And I used to Lewis Hamilton as a great example, or F1, where I talk about being seen in the advertising world, getting your brand seen, because you want to be on that space as much as possible. But you don't want to be on there for the wrong reasons. So F1, massive, I agree with you. There's probably hundreds of people out there that agree with, thousands even.
I don't know how they'll. I don't know how they bounce back from it. It was such a good opportunity, such a great title. But then
you'd be disappointed at the safety car finish, wouldn't you?
But there's a way that they could have run a safety car, and the pit straight where everyone lines up, that's the start finish line. Yeah. The pit lane entry is before that. So, and I think Martin Brundle takes this. So the car could have came in, and then you basically got like one corner, and then so they could all come in, and instead of seeing the safety car coming behind the safety car could have came in and then one corner. But it's very unlikely. Well, he wouldn't have overtaken in that one corner. But
what is? I know they're both millionaires, but what is do we even know how much the difference is between second and first?
What, money wise? I don't think it makes an odds.
It's more about competitive sport.
I think it makes a big deal for the teams and the constructors. So Mercedes still won the constructor championship. Okay. But the driver championship is just something that's I don't even know. You could see Lewis Hamilton just retiring and just going, fuck it. I don't know. I've got 7 and it's my ball. No player. Because you just want to see rules implemented consistently. And I think what's happened is all the teams are obviously just trying to break and push, and that's always been the way in F1. But the directives and how the principles have been managed and sporting regulations stuff have been usually applied really consistently. Like, so say if someone speeds in the pit lane, 5-second penalty or 10-second drive-through penalty, or if someone's deemed to have caused a collision, so there's again, it'll be a time penalty added. There's clear things that are caused as an infringement and clear processes to make sure things are safe. They're on a sticky wicket because they couldn't say it was all safe. They basically just said I'd release 4 cars.
Well, let's move on. Because we're going to go back to this and move on. No, but you're right. I mean, from a competitive sport point of view, you want whatever you've achieved throughout that year to be recognised and never to be tarnished.
Yeah.
And that is forever going to be the tarnished.
And I probably could take up a whole episode on it.
No, it's good. Yeah, so actually, just a couple of more sport things to quickly wrap up. Obviously, Ronaldo to Man U has been massive. Seen Ole getting sacked and try to support that piece, but I'm not a Man U fan, so it doesn't really bother me. I quite enjoy that. For me, I'm a Newcastle United fan. I have been since the Fortuna Spear days and Les Ferdinand and even Shearer, Ginola, Philippe Albert.
They've been a bit of a joke though, no? Like but for a number of years, the last 20 years have pretty much been a joke.
Well, 15 years with Mike Ashley. And it's just
25 years actually probably been a bit of a joke. But.
Well, with Mike Ashley, it's just been like, it's like an open wound. It's just been totally seeping away and just been getting septic and all this kind of stuff. So luckily they get bought over, but I don't know if it's lucky or unlucky because they get bought over by the Saudis, and given what's happened with the whole human rights over there, and seeing the Geordies running about with like I don't know, headscarves and everything on, thinking that they're brilliant with the bellies out and all that stuff. As much as I love Newcastle United, I'm still sceptical about what that actually means. I mean, I know there's going to be a lot of money getting pumped in, and you never know, they might actually be down in the first championship next year at this rate. It will take time, but given the whole background about human rights and everything else, but then where does all the money come from? The oligarchs, from you think about Chelsea or Abramovich, how's he making his money? And the people that have, I spoke to somebody the other day. Even like I was chatting to somebody the other day, even talking about Andrew Carnegie, talking about how he's been successful, but then you don't talk about the people he got to actually build the tracks and all the land he took over and all the people that suffered. You don't talk about that. You talk about the good stuff. And again, with Newcastle, we'll be looking at that in 10 years' time to look at the good stuff instead of looking at all the bad stuff that's happened as well. So yeah, I think there's a bit of reflection there to see what's happened next year. So that's for me, that's about sport. Anything else on your list about you want to cover off about world?
Well, just it was Olympic. Well, Olympics, I guess we probably want to touch on.
Tokyo.
It was so it was like it's the first time we had the 13-year-old. It was the Sky. What's her name? Sky Brown, I think. That she was like made people think that were like just kids going, wow, like you can go win an Olympic medal. So it was like freestyle skateboarding or something. She picked up a bronze medal.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's brilliant.
But so that was one of the highlights from that.
But was that the games? In fact, I'm not even back to COVID, but that was a game where nobody could attend. Is that right?
Yeah.
Because
I think they had a spike just before. So
yeah.
I think it's a bit of a strange one, but obviously from a spectator point of view, we were able to watch it on the TV.
Because obviously the people feed off the energy of the fans. Like any kind of sport, you feed off the energy of the fans. Going. You've seen it in London when the guys clapping. It's brilliant. All that stuff.
So yeah, Jason Kenny became the best or the most prolific Olympian that we've ever had. Wow. Which is fantastic. 2 guys, it was probably a proper Olympic story, and it was one of those that were like, do you know what? I think we needed that this year, where you had the Qatar high jumper and the Italian high jumper. They had the exact same scores, and then they both failed 3 times at the top height, and they just went. The Qatari went to the organizer and said, "Can we share the gold medal?" And so the Qatari and the Italian, I can't remember their names, but yeah, they shook on it, and I think that was Qatar's first ever gold medal. I could be wrong, but I thought it was just such a really nice end to a sport and endeavour. So we've just spoke about F1. I'm going to go there for a second just now, but in terms of like ethical and moral victory and all that kind of stuff, and I think on any other circumstance, if it was just driving, Max would have probably deserved it, or Lewis, but I think they've not done that. But isn't that amazing that 2 competitors just kind of we're at the total peak. Wow. They've blown out the rest of the field, and then it was like, do you know what? I think we both deserve this. Like, it wouldn't that? What a fantastic story.
That's awesome. I'm trying to remember the Scot as well, who just missed out in Taekwondo gold. by about 3 seconds. I can't remember. Figure that out. My kids were watching it with me as well.
But yeah, that's probably it for sport. I could talk about a few more, but
I know, but even I'm thinking about
you don't want to talk about the SPL.
No, let's move on from that. So even if you look across the pond, so even think about the world. So if I think about America, America's had quite a crazy year. Obviously, think about Biden getting inaugurated, if you like.
Is he well, man?
Is Biden like well?
Do you think? I don't want to like the threat coming across as ageist, but
it's hard.
He doesn't feel like he's all there.
No, do you know what? This is what he went. That was his fourth.
What's
time.
he 77?
Well, yeah, I think it was his fourth time going for the presidency. But people take pictures of him sleeping, but then again, he just closing his eyes. You never know.
I don't think it's sleeping that's but I think like the decision and like. I spoke about like your brain and the tracking and like mental acuity and stuff like that.
But then, as much as your body will start to fall apart, your brain still is. Well, you hope your brain's still there. But even like, was it Kamala Harris is there? She's obviously the first vice president, women vice president. She's there just to kind of take over.
So, but do you know why she took over?
No,
because he was in getting I don't know, some operation. Like,
was he? I don't know.
Bowels or something.
I didn't know she took over. No, I mean just in case.
So she became president. She's the first black president.
Yeah, but then
first black female president, first female and first female black president. Yeah. Then, sorry, Barack.
like, what?
Completely disregard.
But then you think about the whole the shit show that happened with Donald Trump leaving as well, with US Capitol riots, all that stuff, and even the funny stuff, even bizarrely, like how Donald Trump's probably one of the first people to get banned from Facebook and Twitter.
What do you think? Like Trump going last year and Biden coming in, right? Mm-hmm. And it's talk like Biden's came in, and I think there was like an opportunity there to kind of like take ownership and kind of bow. Yeah. And I feel like it's a full year of like blaming Trump for everything that he's done. And like they had like 4 years of blaming Trump when he was in office.
And even you look at what happened, we touched on it with Afghanistan as well, about how he basically left as well. How Biden went, no, we're leaving this date, we've promised this date, but then it just basically didn't really tell. Well, I believe they didn't really tell enough people about it and make sure that their own delegates to Afghanistan didn't get them out in time, and Britain never.
So that was Biden. Biden went. It was Trump set the deadline. He's the president. He could like. Do you know what? We're not going to pull out, or we're going to push the date back. And this is where I'm going. Like, is he there? It feels like it's. I mean, it's politics all over, isn't it? But I think we went like one extreme. Probably too far the other way. I would be amazed if there's not a sweep of like Republican, in terms of the next election, because this just feels like it's I don't know. It feels like there's a real lack of leadership, whereas Trump was at least.
Yeah, he had the balls to kind of do stuff on Twitter. He was just like, I'll take it ownership.
Didn't give a shit.
I'm going to build a wall and that's it. And people are like, don't be stupid. Then all of a sudden he started to build a wall. That's finished.
I don't think he would ever said like, Biden's like, oh well, he'd set the date, so it's Trump's fault. And I'm like, Trump would have been like, no, we're not doing this, or we are doing it. He would take.
I mean, we've got to see what happens over there, because it's so dangerous. I mean, even was it a couple of nights ago when Boris Johnson passed through the COVID pass piece, but he needed Labour to get that passed because
there's 99. I think it's his biggest defeat.
His own party were just like, man, no chance. So there's no confidence there. And even you talk about Donald Trump and Facebook and Twitter, even with they talk about Facebook. Facebook had to rebrand into Meta, or they've rebranded to Meta because of all this kind of internal. We haven't talked about Brewdog about this kind of internal culture. Same with Facebook, this internal culture. But it's all these billionaires who even think that they're look at this fucking attitude where they think that Earth's too small for them. Let's go to space. You've seen Bezos. Is it Branson? And who's the other one again? Is it Musk? Elon Musk?
I don't think he's doing that.
No. So it's Bezos and Bezos.
I think it's just Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos and Branson.
And he's took Shatner up with them as well.
Oh, Shatner, right? I think that's Jeff Bezos, isn't it?
It's absolutely nuts. If you've seen Jeff Bezos on TV, it makes me. I seen it on Gogglebox or something like that, which shows you a clip of him saying, "Just want to thank all the Amazon staff and all the Amazon customers for paying for me to go to space." Like, what a tosser. But yeah, so for me, that's looking
We'll
over
still order all our stuff.
I know,
'cause
we'll
it's
still
as
order the
easy and
stuff.
frictionless as it gets. But
But for me, looking over the water, that's kind of stuff that I was kind of looking at. There's a few other highlights for me as well, but is there any funny highlights you think as well?
do you know what? There's a lot of stuff that, like, I would say, I mean, it's a lot of the political stuff that's came on feels laughable, but not in a good way. Like Boris Johnson, like in the party, try to distance himself from a party he was clearly going to be at, but it's the way that he does it. It's like, so I have been assured there's not been a party. So, I mean, it's next door to you, mate.
Yeah.
So
and that's the joke. The police are looking into it. Why didn't you ask the policeman in the front door of Downing Street? Was there a party? Because he's standing there the whole time. But that's a complete.
there is
stupid.
so there's stuff like that. There's a Matt Hancock, you know, and it's laughable that like all of these things came out. I'm pretty sure. Like, I think this weekend we might see a picture of Boris at the party.
You think?
I don't have any sources close to the Express or Mail, but the drip feed like each weekend of a new bit of information.
Wasn't it,
so there's a picture of him at the quiz with tinsel and stuff like that. Then the week before, that's when the story broke. And they like to keep these things drip feed them so that they can get some readership up on the and some clicks and some actual physical paper sold at the weekend. So I wouldn't be surprised if it kind of something like that comes out.
We haven't even spoke about. Remember there about the cricket and the race issues and cricket's come out as well. That's probably another time, but yeah, actually, yeah.
So I thought we're going to finish on some highlights.
Like
sorry,
funny stuff.
So that's not
funny stuff. Yeah, so
not funny.
A couple of funny things for me. It was the M&S and Aldi calling the caterpillar out. If you've seen that throughout the year, that was funny. Where Aldi tried to bring out like Cuthbert the caterpillar or whatever his name was, and there was this kind of Twitter exchange between them both about, can you not bring out this, can you not bring out that, and M&S looking to sue them and Aldi going back, which was really positive, saying like, instead of us doing the lawyer stuff, why don't we just donate money to charity we spend and all this stuff, and they end up saying let's be friends, and they've came to an amicable solution. So that was a really good funny kind of story that could have became a total PR disaster for either one of them, but
like no one would win. Legal costs to
sue
about, and it's something that Aldi's the one that have like, they've got like the fake Brewdog cans and stuff like that. They, like everything.
Smooth Dog, all those kind of ones, Aldi stuff. But even silly stories like when Adele brought out her new album, and then the person from Australia flew all over the journalist who got the #1 gig. They paid £1 million. This Australian news channel to basically have the only rights to the Adele interview, and she'd go over and do this stuff in Australia as well. He flew over, and he said he missed the email with the tracks on it, the sample tracks, to let me hear what was going to be released. And then during the interview, I think they asked him like, "What do you think of the songs?" And he went, "Oh, I've not listened to them, not heard them." And then because of that, they pulled the interview. Sony went, "No, we're not doing it at all because I never listened to it." So now the channel's lost out, and basically an £1 million
because he's not listened
to it, and he's now trying to come back and say like, I never knew, I never insult her, I wouldn't do this. So it's just one of those ones where you're looking at how you're just so involved in yourself that you don't actually get a chance to. He said he missed the email, to be fair, but for me it just shows you sometimes how with the calling the caterpillar not being available to listen to music, that you can just be so involved in yourself and actually just step back and go like, it's not about you, just have a bit of fun. So for me that's a couple of things, and probably I've looked at a couple of random stuff as well that's popped up. I didn't know. So China have eliminated malaria. Apparently that's one of 3 South Asian countries that have now done this. Didn't know that. The HIV vaccine is now 97% has a response rate.
Or effectiveness.
Didn't know that. 77 countries have banned plastic bags and the use of them going forward and creating them. Didn't know that either. Juneteenth, which is the 19th of June 1865, has been celebrated as the marking of the end of slavery. So that's now a date in the diary we need to celebrate as well. Debenhams closed its high street stores. Just some random stuff, which the fuel crisis we never spoke about. Storm Arwen and all this kind of stuff. But probably for me the biggest highlight is, two biggest highlights. Doing the podcast for you. And the second one.
Oh, that's what a terrible high five. I thought you were going for that. I thought you were going down low there.
And the second one is a Brass Neck Rum, celebrated
1 year old.
1 year old this year. So
well done.
Looking forward to next year. So for me, that is 2021.
So if you want to go out and, well, this is
we're after Christmas now. But if you want to get something in, a nice
New
rum
Year,
for
yeah.
the new year,
Yeah.
brass neck, high end rum,
Yeah, exactly.
very good.
Lovely, neat, lovely ginger beer.
Do you know what, actually, and I'm going to out my neighbour, you may listen to this or not, my old neighbour. I bought a couple of bottles.
Yeah.
I gave a bottle to him as a present. I was forever drinking his beer last year.
I remember that, yeah.
And so I gave him a bottle as a present, and then asked him a couple of months later. It's priced appropriately, but it's not the cheapest bottle of rum I'm going to say, right?
You're going to say that, yeah.
It's a nice, very nice rum. Premium rum, yeah. I asked him a couple of months later. He said, "Oh, I gave it to me. I don't really drink rum." I went, "What? What did you take it for then? I've got vodka or something I could have gave you."
There you go.
But
no, it's on its fourth batch. Is it fourth batch now? Going into his fifth batch. So yeah, going successful. The guys are doing fantastic. Freddie, who looks after Instagram, the Doom guys who do the videos, it's phenomenal. So yeah, 1 year live, but it took 2 years to get it ready. So yeah, it's been a fantastic journey. So we're looking forward to drinking more of that in 2022.
Good stuff. I'd say like highlights for me personally would be podcasts as well. We're like 40 odd episodes. We're gonna have our full year coming in the next, well, only in the next month or so, yeah. But yeah, like that's 1 year out of employment. So something that I probably had a plan for about 5 years. It ended up being a 4 year. Took redundancy after 4 years of that, and I've been able to stand on my own 2 feet for the last year.
Right.
Very little interaction with anyone back, like from SAC, or much support, or in fairness. But
I think that says a lot about you, though.
You kind of like leaving, you're like, you miss me a bit. It's only there 10 years, but so like very happy with that. And I say I would need to be paid like maybe 4 or 5 times to even consider going back now, because or going into a full-time job, because it's just, you've got so much autonomy in terms of being able to choose what you can do, start doing stuff like this. But yeah, good stuff. So we'll be back next week on the 3rd. Have a fantastic Hogmanay or New Year if you're listening to this anywhere else in the world. And that's 2021 wrapped up.
See you soon, guys. As always, thank you so much for listening to the Pop Pod this week. If you'd like to leave a review or share the podcast with others, then that'd be awesome. You'll find us on Instagram at the Pop Pod, and on Facebook we have a community group called Purpose to Progress that anyone can join. And we'll be back every Monday with a new episode, but until then, stay on purpose, and we'll see you next week.